It's the Break Free vlog blog thing that Ann and I do.
It's the thing we do. It's happening.
Some people think we do music. We really vlog.
We vlog. You know.
So
Often.
Ann is apparently sitting in what appears to be a greenhouse.
Yes, exactly. No, I live here. I live here. This is the covered porch of my house, and even though it is January, it is sunny and warm, and felt nicer on the porch than by the fire today. So
Ann, today we're going to talk about some stuff about us. Not really necessarily music related, but just things about us.
that's right. So, yeah, for those of you who have been watching and don't know who we are, or that you do know who we are, and we haven't told you much other than our opinions on music things, today you get to know more.
Yes. You're going to learn about our political leanings. Probably not, actually.
Our religious leanings? No, probably not.
All the things that you're not supposed to talk about in good company, that's what we're going to do.
Yes, so exciting.
Well, Ann, do you want to start? So we're going to do some facts about ourselves. Depending on how long it takes, this might get split into 2 videos. I'm guessing probably. So be prepared for part 1 and part 2. But we're going to start off with, Ann, do you want to kick off the first cool factoid about you?
Sure, why not? So, I am a country kid. I grew up in rural eastern New Mexico, and hold on, let me get some props here. I would do things like haul hay with my brothers and family, and both sets of grandparents are ranchers, so I got in on a lot of branding crews, and so I know some things.
I have been on a branding crew once. And that's all it took.
That's enough. The smell, it stays with you.
And I suspect, I don't know. I don't know if a lot of our fans understand branding. Do you want to chat about that a little bit? Because I think that's something people don't know about.
Well, branding. So when you have your cattle, in order to mark them as yours, one of the ways people do this is they take a red hot iron that has been heated in a torch and a flame, and you have taken the cow, or and secured it some way. Like I say, we didn't do the flank them and hold them down thing, and had chutes and pins that you'd squeeze them in. And so you take this red hot iron and press it firmly to the flesh until you get a nice sear and the nice burn smell of fur and flesh. And so you have this you're permanently scarring your animals. That is what you do.
You know what? So people understand what you're talking about. I actually have 2 old school branding irons. Let me grab them.
Zach just happens to have branding irons.
So,
in your studio. That's really what I'm curious about. Why do you have branding irons in your studio?
That actually is a great segue into what my first factoid is going to be. And that is that I currently live in Castle Rock, Colorado, which is where my father grew up. He grew up in a ranch outside of Castle Rock a little bit in the 50s and 60s. I think he was born in 47. So yeah, but he was a rancher himself, and so I actually not too long ago got the family brand, and so ours was the Heart S. And so what Anna's talking about, when you heat up, here's the branding iron. It's about 3 or 4 feet long. Got the nice, but you can see where it used to be put in the flame.
Yep, that's been used.
There's the S, and then here's our heart, because we were Heart S. But you can see, like, it's substantial.
Cool.
And to give people who might not know about the weight of what these things are like, there used to be a wall behind me, and when I moved in and I wanted to convert this basement into a studio / rehearsal space, what I did, and I have to turn. But when I wanted to turn this room into a rehearsal space / studio, I had to take that wall out. And as I was taking it out, I realized I didn't own a pry bar. So how was I going to tear apart the drywall and everything from like, because it was like a big particle board thing. It was a super pain. Well, I cleared out the room. I took a branding iron and I swung it like a baseball bat and shattered the wall. And it did not bend or ding this at all.
Right. They are substantial and can be used for more than permanently scarring your cattle.
Yeah. Yes. And I branded once. That was enough for me. But yeah, that's my first factoid is that I am currently living in the same town that my dad grew up in and went to high school.
Nice.
I know. Not really an intentional thing that I planned on, but
Yeah.
and the reason I kind of like is as a segue is you mentioned you feel more comfortable sort of in the rural parts of New Mexico.
Yes, I do.
I also grew up in rural New Mexico. In fact, my album is called Nowhere, New Mexico. But I lived in Denver for a long time and I got kind of claustrophobic. And my wife and Annette, moved to Castle Rock because it was just like a slower pace, a smaller town, and I am much happier here than in Denver.
Nice, nice. So yeah, kind of on that topic. Yeah, the house that I am living in now, I inherited from my grandparents, and their cabin out on Lake Sumner, and it serves my my hermit-like tendencies very well. And it's a great home base, and then I get to travel around and make music, and so it serves my getting out and interacting with the world, and then I get to come back and stare at the lake.
Pretty sweet.
Life is good. Life is good in a lot of ways.
And I don't think it would be fair to leave out how dope that place is for your cat.
And that is very true. So if you hear strange sounds that sound like the pitter-patter of tiny feet on a tin roof, that would be the cat that's up there. So my cat Samson, my roommate, and this will go along with the factor that I'll get to shortly, but first, he has been forever immortal. So yeah, my sister-in-law, who's a great artist, was needing a project, and he tends to sleep with his tongue out, which has been so beautifully captured here. So
Please send me a picture of that so I can slide that in.
That when he's awake, he has beautiful blue eyes. But
Oh my God.
So yeah, living at the lake, pretty dope for Samson. He's got the neighbors trained. He's got me trained. He's got it made. So.
Samson is dope.
So this kind of goes along with one of my factoids. So a pet peeve of mine is whenever people refer to me as Samson's mother, it's like, no, I've met his mom. She's a cat. So Samson, not my kid. He's my roommate, if anything. But just wanted to straight on that.
I think referring to your pet as a roommate is actually kind of sweet. I like that.
So yeah, we're buds, but there's he's not my son. But
fair enough. So my next fact. Oh, and before I forget, here's a picture of. I can't even tell if that's in frame because I'm out of the shot.
It's a little. There's a lot of reflection there. So
yeah, I'll just upload a picture of my record. But this photo is Annette, or as Ann and I are talking about rural New Mexico. The cover of my last album was taken on the side of Interstate 40, outside of Bard, New Mexico. And the factoid about that's funny is I picked the location for two reasons. One is that I grew up pretty close to there. Ann and I lived in the same part of New Mexico for a while, but then I moved, and I grew up in San Juan, Tucumcari area, and there's actually a town called Bard, which I thought was cool to take a picture on the side of the highway in empty-ass New Mexico next to the sign that said Bard, because for those of you who may not know, a bard is also a term for like a traveling singer of songs, and storyteller. And so I thought that was funny. And it also ties into one of my later facts. but my album cover was taken on the side of the road by my mom, my aunt, my dad, and my wife, where we just pulled over. I gave them all, they had their cell phones, and I said, I'm going to walk towards the sign, take as many pictures as you can. I'll take the best one and put that on the album cover. And that's how we did it.
There you go. I didn't know it was the family competition there to get like the best picture for Zach. That's pretty great.
I think, if I recall right, it was my Aunt Doris who we used her photo. I think so. Because I think my dad took like pictures of his feet.
That's not right.
Yeah.
Well, good to have several angles there to choose
Yes.
from. That's awesome.
All right, Ann, what do you got?
Okay, so as Zach mentioned, we grew up, same general area of New Mexico, and so met whenever I think I was 5 and Zach was 6, and we kind of went back and forth. Whenever we reconnected in college,
Oh, God.
and this is after science fair, which we'll get to maybe that too, but or not. So just to show you how cool Zach and I have always been, that we have this one. And so also, whenever I needed a buddy to like go out to bars and see bands play, and I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure I was underage at the time. Anyway, Zach has always been my go-to friend. Say, hey, you want to go check out this band? And
Of course I would.
And of course. So, yep.
So speaking of underage Ann, I remember she was 20 and I was 21. And a former classmate of ours from South Plains College had come to Lubbock to play a show, and he had like gone off to Nashville and was making a record. It was like a big deal. He's playing this club, and Ann knew him better than I did. His name is Jed Hughes. He's a super talented guy. Crazy. He's got writing credits for like Keith Urban and stuff.
Right. Look him up. He's worth checking out.
He's legit. He almost, and I'll talk about him later when I talk about when I almost gave up playing guitar. But we get to the club, and Ann and I are trying to go in, and they're like, I'm sorry, you're not old enough. And I was just like, being the quick-witted idiot that I am, I went inside, found a dude we knew. I was like, her dad's in there. And so I brought him out, and I was like, just say that you're her dad. And the bouncer was like, what are you doing? And the bouncer was like, what's Ann's birthday? And he just looked at us. He's like, and he just shrugs and walks back into the club.
He tried. No, he threw out something, and I think he maybe also, it was like looking at my ID and asked him like, what's her middle name?
Yeah.
And he's like, Renee. But it was great. He said it with such like confidence. I was like, no, actually.
No, that's not your daughter.
That's not your daughter. No, and it was great. He's like, well, I tried. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really probably makes for a better story in that we didn't get to go in to hear the band that night, and that, we just left to the streets of Lubbock.
Lubbock, Texas, man. We saw many a band in Lubbock. Some better than others.
That is true. That is true.
Oh, geez.
And so, speaking of, we can segue this or whatever. I was in a couple of those bands in Lubbock. So, college bands that I was in. So, one that I have, speaking of. So, yeah, Plains College. Then I went to Texas Tech, and while I was at Texas Tech going to school and getting my biology degree, I was also in bands at night. One of which was Hotfoot Toby.
Hotfoot Toby.
It's probably one of the longest lasting college bands I was in. And so the guys would all wear suits and I would wear fancy dresses. And so we looked good, whether we sounded good or not. Had a great time with Hotfoot Toby, and they're great guys. I've I think we've only have live recordings of those a night. So if you're out there and have a live recording of Hotfoot Toby, then you are in a very, very elite group of people. Because yeah, those are rare. So
Highly sought after bootlegs.
that's right. That's right. So we we did have several regular gigs there in Lubbock, and me being ambitious and or stupid at the time, I would play gigs from 10 to 2, and then I would have 8 o'clock classes. And so which meant that, if I was doing really good, I could get home and in by 3, and that was pushing. Then I needed to get last possible minute to get up, and to make it to 8 o'clock class was getting up at 7. So I figured, man, 4 hours of sleep is great. And now I definitely, well, it's not that I can't do that. I don't want to. I choose not to. I'm more of an 8 or 9 hour sleep person. Yeah. But back in the day, I did that at least several times a week because I was in a couple different bands, and going to school at the same time. And I liked 8 o'clock classes. That's also another strange factoid maybe, but yeah. So I was trying to have it all.
and I did the same thing. And that's actually a great segue into my factoid.
Excellent.
Which is my longest running college band and got me into. It was called Dr. Scoob and the Acoustic Groove. And the way I got into that gig is I had been in a bunch of hard rock bands because I really like hard rock. But I think, didn't your guys' guitar player just like up and quit or something before a gig?
I kind of I don't know if Scoob ever really appreciated this, but I did. The band for bandless musicians, because there's kind of this rotating cast.
That's so true.
And it was very much like that for me. It's like, oh man, I need a band. Will you guys have me? There was always room in Dr. Scoob, because it was a fluctuating group that we would have a lot of people, and it was a great band. Yeah, I think guitar or moved or something, and I was getting too busy with Hotfoot Toby.
Yeah.
And we also had a good friend who was ready to play with Dr. Scoob and was taking my place. I was like, yeah, Zach, you should check out the Scoob.
It's like I go to this club, and it was this club in Lubbock called Jazz. I remember that. And the leader of the band, Doug Haynes, who's a super nice guy and a great songwriter.
Cool creative guy.
Yeah, but he had never heard me play. All he had was his bass player said she knew this dude who plays guitar. So I show up. He goes, why don't you just play 3 songs? We'll see how it goes. And then I played 3 songs. He goes, why don't you play the rest of the set? Cool. I played the rest of the set. Then he goes, can you play the rest of the night? So I played till 2 a.m. And then on my way out, he's like, you want to be in the band? So the next gig, the band had a weekly gig at that club. I show up the next week. We never rehearsed. I show up, and the trumpet player is putting up microphones, and he's like, we're going to make a live album. I was like, I have played with you one time.
So I worked at Six Flags over Arlington for 2 weeks because I was subbing for a bass player who up and left. And so my buddy Ben Clark, also fantastic guy, great musician, who you can find all over the place, who's, Banjo Ben, called me up and said, Ann, we need you, which is always perfect. I love being the bass player who saves the day. So we played at Six Flags and it was either 4 or 5 20-minute sets throughout the day, depending on what the day was. And got to go play the set that they had already worked up, and got to ride all the rides at Six Flags for free, and lived in a hotel room there for a couple weeks. And anyway, it was a great time.
And I think that's a great place to wrap up this first half of the video.